While Bluey is one of the most entertaining shows ever, it also has some heart-wrenching moments. One of those sad and memorable moments will certainly be when Bluey tells her classmates that she and her family are leaving. Yes, they're leaving. And we find out at the end of the episode Ghost Basket, the last one released in the 3rd season, as the Healer family is selling their house. Also, in the trailer for the final 28-minute episode of the same season, we see Bluey sad and huddled, and all her classmates quite surprised. This scene is the moment when the blue pup reveals that she'll be leaving forever. This will surely be one of the saddest and most emotional moments of the series, as it will break the hearts of many, especially Mackenzie. But before this sad moment, we had some other very sad ones too. Get your tissues ready, because now you're about to see the top 10 saddest moments in Bluey. Just as Bluey is going to break Mackenzie's heart with her likely departure, someone has already done that to the series' own protagonist in the past. And if you remembered the episode with Jean-Luc, you're right. Since the Canadian puppy only speaks French, he knew he was leaving, but he couldn't tell Bluey.
Hi, tu veux jouer avec moi? Huh? Est-ce qu'on joue ensemble? I'm not really sure what you're talking about.
And the next day, when she thought they were going to play again, she didn't find anyone. Only later does Chili tell her that she saw Jean-Luc's family packing their things and leaving. And when Bluey understands that because they didn't speak the same language, they couldn't say goodbye. So she goes to a secluded spot and starts to cry. That was certainly one of the moments when a tear also ran down from my eyes. At least we saw at the end of the episode that the two friends reunited years later, exactly under the same tree they planted together in their childhood play. Bluey knows how to touch people's hearts, there's no denying that. So, Bluey will leave Mackenzie sad, and she has been saddened by Jean-Luc's departure. But she also was responsible for making her little sister very sad. This happened in the Butterflies episode, where Judo, the girl's neighbor, goes to play with the sisters in their backyard. However, when it's Bingo's turn to play the cocoon role, Judo ends up convincing Bluey to leave Bingo without her knowing, and they go to another place to play, just the two of them. So when the youngest Healer daughter comes out of the cocoon, she doesn't find anyone. She goes to the front of the house and sees the two playing something else. And Judo once again ends up making Bluey leave without paying much attention to Bingo, who is left alone and feels completely abandoned. Seriously, that must be a very bad feeling. Poor Bingo. The little puppy's eyes fill with tears, and she goes back to her cocoon in the tree. But this moment is doubly sad, because later, the older sister returns and feels guilty for everything she did, and she also starts to cry, so we see both of them saddened. The two make amends, and everything returns to normal, but it was a very emotional moment. Seriously, Bluey really messes with my heart, and you? If so, comment below, #feelings. Some episodes of Bluey have even dealt with very emotional themes, such as death. In the Copycat episode, we see Bluey imitating Bandit in everything he does. But during the game, they pass by a tree and find a little bird fallen motionless, which was very hurt. The puppy and her father take the bird to the nearest veterinary clinic to try to help it. However, shortly after, the vet gives Bandit and Bluey the sad news that the little animal didn't make it and passed away. Bluey, upon returning home, seeks comfort in her mother's arms, who was already prepared for the worst. She knew that for a 6-year-old, it would be very difficult to understand that bad things can happen to helpless animals, just like what happened to the little bird. In fact, this is difficult even for older people, so anyone who has lost a pet at some point surely understood how Bluey was feeling at that moment. It really is a very painful and cruel feeling. Another touching feeling that we have all felt, or will feel one day, is loneliness. Being abandoned makes us very sad, and even a little resentful. And that's exactly what Mackenzie felt when he was just a little puppy and went down the slide and didn't find his mother. He believed she had left him behind. But in reality, it was all just a misunderstanding, as she was right there, right behind him. But this sad feeling accompanied the little puppy for many years, until Calypso, his teacher, helped him overcome this sad trauma. Even when he played with his classmates, he felt they were abandoning him, when in fact, it was nothing like that. All of this was shown to us in the space episode, and all this revelation of how Mackenzie felt lonely for so long was something that touched my heart in a way I didn't imagine. Bingo is one of the funniest characters in Bluey, but at the same time, she's one of the most sensitive. This becomes quite clear in the Yoga Ball episode, where Bandit plays some rough games with his 4-year-old daughter. And without realizing it, some of these games make Bingo feel pain and discomfort because they're too rough, at least for her, who is 2 years younger than Bluey and therefore smaller and slower. So, after some rough play, Bingo isolates herself in a place and starts crying because that's how she can express her pain for everything that was happening. Seeing this scene, I felt really down imagining myself in Little Red Heeler's place. After all, she's just a child who doesn't express herself very well yet. With the help of her mother, Bingo then reveals to Bandit how she was feeling, and he had no idea about any of it. He apologizes and learns that he should interact differently with his two daughters, since they have different ages and strengths. But I was certainly very sad to see Bingo so down. Another episode in Bluey that made me feel deeply anguished was when the girls met Aunt Brandy in onesies. Brandy is Chili's sister, and it had been 4 years since they had seen each other, but the episode doesn't tell the reason. And during the episode's play, where Bingo pretends to be a leopard hunting them all, we hear a dialogue between Chili and Bluey while we see Brandy playing with Bingo. Chili explains that there are some things in life that we don't have, and it's nobody's fault. So we see Brandy lying down and thoughtful while Bingo continues her hunt. This moment becomes quite intense and profound because we understand that the girl's aunt's dream would be to be a mother, but she has tried a few times and couldn't. And there's nothing worse than having a dream that you know is practically impossible to achieve. Because of this frustration, Brandy had spent 4 years without seeing Chili and her daughters because, for some reason, it was bad for her mental health. Understanding the situation of Bluey's aunt is really something that touches anyone's heart. And about this, we have some really cool news. But before I tell you, if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, click down below on the subscribe button and join the team. That way, you won't miss our next Bluey and cartoon videos. In The Sign, the new episode of the series recently released, we find out that Brandy finally managed to get pregnant and is close to having a baby, which is also very exciting. Still on the topic of babies, we know that Bluey is a series that touches on sensitive topics very subtly. Something similar happens in the Mother's Day episode, where Bingo and Bluey prepare a presentation showing how Bandit and Chili met and got married. At a certain moment, they simulate Chili's first pregnancy, putting a small balloon under the shirt Bingo was wearing. And during the play, it pops. At this moment, we have the shocking revelation that Bluey wasn't the first Heeler baby. Bandit puts his hand over his wife's, who is momentarily shocked and very sad, revealing that in the past, the couple lost their first baby while it was still in Chili's belly. This really is something very deep and extremely touching. Understanding this made me reflect for quite some time and understand how hard it is for a mother to lose a baby. So Bluey is a rainbow baby exactly for this reason, which brought a lot of joy to the couple and made the family more complete. And precisely because she's such a special baby, we understand why Chili herself felt like a bad mother when Bluey was just a baby and was taking a little longer than other children to start walking. We noticed this in the baby race episode. And in this episode, we have two very emotional and remarkable moments that made me cry. The first one is when Coco's mother visits Chili after realizing that Bluey's mother felt guilty about it. She reassures her and reveals that she has several children and tells Chili that she's a great mother.
And there's something you need to know.
What?
You're doing great.
The two hug in a very emotional, heartwarming moment, which I have to confess, left my eyes filled with tears. A little later, we see one of the most beautiful scenes in the entire series, which is when Bluey takes her first steps toward Chili in the kitchen. The background music and the moment were simply perfect, touching the deepest part of my soul, making me even more emotional as I was still recovering from the conversation between Chili and Bella. Seriously, it seems like Bluey is an expert at making fans touched by its scenes and music. That's why I like this show so much. It can entertain and touch our feelings at the same time. Watching Bluey is something that makes me very happy. And I'm so happy that I'm leaving two very cool videos for you to watch right now. Both are very good, so you can choose any of the two that you'll enjoy.